Alright, let's just cut to the chase. Dragon Age 2 deserves a remake, with the Veilguard hype machine just starting up after watching its first reveal.
Not looking good, old friend.
I think it's time to look back at the most flawed entry in the franchise so far. Not gonna count the mobile games, novels, comics, and cartoons. Dragon Age 2 got tons of deserved criticisms from the players and the critics. Things like how the game looks, the repetitive environments, the simplified combat, the much lower stakes compared to Origins, the Mass Effect dialogue wheel, are about one of the few of the grievances that player and critics have with the game. And while I do have my own criticisms, I can see that this game could be so much more if only they let the game be in development for more than 10 months. Some people already took issue with the premise of it being smaller in scale compared to Origins, with Origins being about uniting people against a rising worldwide threat, while Dragon Age 2 is all about family and surviving with them after running away from the Darkspawn threat from Origins, while meeting your quirky potential companions. That's also just trying to live their lives instead of trying to stop some grand threat. I don't have any problems with this. In fact, this can be more interesting because the stories will be on the more personal level, and let's face it, my best storytelling comes from the smaller, intimate stories with their companions instead of the grand saving the world from ancient evil kind of stuff. While stopping ancient evils are cool and all, the ones that stuck with me the most are the smaller moments with the companions, just enjoying the little things in life, and also their personal stories. And fighting ancient evil stuff has happened quite a lot actually. Those sprawling save the world stories will be nothing but the friends you made along the way, and them wanting to downscale the scope and make it more intimate without the looming threat that ends the world was a great idea in my book. It's a different enough premise while still keeping the tone of Origins, and can be even darker at some points. But alas, while the idea itself is interesting, the execution left a lot to be desired, with just how cheap certain scenes look and how weirdly paced some certain plot points unfold. It kinda blunts the emotional scenes that could hurt a lot more if only they were executed better. At least the voice actors were able to give it their all though. But I do have to say, Dragon Age 2 story isn't for everyone. Especially those that wanted to be the celebrated hero that can solve any problems without taking any or minimum losses on their side. Hawk is a pinball protagonist by design. They're just a normal, if extremely competent person that just wants to make a living for their family and friends. Things more often than not happen to them instead of them being the instigator of change. So they have to make do and react to all the chaos around them while keeping his friends and family safe instead of being a world-renowned hero that can throw hands with gods while breaking a sweat and able to solve racism problem that permeates throughout the city since ancient times. It's not about saving the world, it's about saving your world while the world is falling apart, and with more budget and development time, I think it would be even better than Origins. Well, more interesting at least. Another thing that was criticized a lot were the repetitive maps and the very obvious asset reuse. And that I can't deny. It's bad. It's really bad. Every dungeon looks the same. In fact, you go back to the same dungeon multiple times, and this can be fine-ish if there's more areas to explore. But Dragon Age 2 doesn't have a lot of areas to explore, which make this problem even more glaring. There's also nothing interesting to see in these dungeons. They're mostly caves. Not counting the DLC, but the DLC also includes caves. Not really helped by the new art style, they make these walls even more noticeable. I do have to say though, this is one of those problems that will definitely disappear if the devs were given a proper development cycle, instead of being crunched to hell. Remember what that guy said? A delayed game will eventually be good, but a rushed game will forever be bad. But it turns out this quote wasn't by Shigeru Miyamoto. It's actually a mini rabbit hole in on itself. Well, that quote wasn't necessarily true anymore in this day and age, but I do hope game devs delay stuff instead of trying to fix it in post. Fool's hope, to be honest. A lot of criticisms are also thrown at the companions, which people said are boring or unlikable. Well, I don't think they're boring, except what's his face? I think they're a pretty rememberable bunch. A bit rough around the edges compared to the usual BioWare companions, but that's by design. None of these people actually sign up to save the world or anything, they just want to live their life. Well, except a select few. However, I do have a personal complaint for Anders. He's just way too different than the Anders in Awakening. There's nothing about his personality that is Awakening Anders. While I do understand that he has his whole Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance thing going, Spirit of Justice, but come on man, not a single bit of his old personality? It's like he's not even Anders anymore. Usually when people change, their old personality of theirs are still there, but buried, and they can surface sometimes. Not with Anders though. He's just very moody now and neurotic. And someone can outbrew the resident edgelord Fenris, who already looks like an AG anime character. And that's bananas, I think. Speaking about anime, this game is by far the closest BioWare has ever gotten to a JRPG. And with JRPG, there's anime. And with anime, there's rivalries. And friendship. Instead of the approval system that Dragon Age 1 and Inquisition has, Dragon Age 2 uses a different system called the friendship and rivalry system. This one is quite different than the old approval-based system. Rather than them just disliking you more and eventually leaving, you can make them your rival. As in, you maintain a friendship, but you don't necessarily agree with what they're doing. And sometimes, maybe even changing their opinions on certain subjects, which is the biggest power fantasy in a world filled with magics and dragons. So you become those best buds that always bicker with each other, but always have each other's backs in the end. Or you just barely respect each other. Or just straight up change their minds, without risking them leaving. Unless you're wishy-washy. Nobody likes a wishy-washy hawk. I think this system holds so much more potential than the generic approval system that Inquisition brought back from Origins. As you can actually have different types of relationships with the characters that's not all about gaining approval then making the big choice for them. And also, you can make them disapprove while risking them bailing on you because their approval got too low. I just think that this system is far more compelling than the basic approval system that we got, and has more potential in that we can see two sides of the same character based on how we treat them. Done right, this system could have been revolutionary, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. At least not yet. Another lost potential were the time skips. There's a lot you can do with time skips, changing environments, people wearing different clothes, characters developing and maturing, and knowing your action has consequences. Unfortunately, they only went halfway with it. Probably because of the incredibly short development time. Like how the characters always looks the same throughout the years. Even their clothes stay the same, except when there's a plot related reason for them to change. Environment barely changes too. Like there's a Kyonari encampment in the second arc, and a statue of Hawk I guess in the final arc. But everything else stays the same and looks the same. It barely feels like a long time has passed. And while characters do develop during the time skip through your choices, it's still pretty minimal. And some parts are just straight up inevitable, like Anders getting more and more unhinged as time goes on, and Meryl going all in on her blood magic thing. Unless you did the rivalry route, which they'll regret it in the end, like only at the end. Same thing with choices you made before the time skips. They have a few consequences here and there, but it's nothing big especially compared to The Witcher 2, which I sound like an asshole. Which came out soon after Dragon Age 2 release, and has an entire route system that changes the entire second act and a bit of the third act. When you compare the two, Dragon Age 2 falls woefully short, except the combat, but that's mostly because Witcher 2's combat is just straight up ass, and not fun for me on release at least. Anyway, they could have done a lot more with the time skips, but they didn't, and that's just sad. Dragon Age 2 is definitely one of those games that got fucked from the very beginning, but still manages to reach the finish line. Brutally beaten, but still kinda okay? Probably because it still has the so-called BioWare magic. Dragon Age 2 wasn't complete dog water though, but there's so much more potential for it to be more. Especially with how straight up experimental it is some parts of the story beats and features are for an RPG. But alas, they only have 16 months to make such a game, time that is clearly not enough to make a game with such ambitions. It's such a shame really, when games that are clearly excellent from the beginning are getting remakes so soon, while not giving any chances to games that are flawed but has a lot of potential. Dragon Age 2 clearly fits that bill, along with Alpha Protocol.
Ow! What the hell are you... Ah! What the hell are you doing? Knocking people out by hitting them on the head? That's movie stuff.
Because I very much believe games that were flawed but has potential deserves more to be remade. But it's also very obvious that the ones that makes the decisions doesn't see it that way. Because why risk it? Thanks for watching guys. I guess that's it for the video. Subscribe, like, and share. And I'll see you guys later maybe. Hopefully.